After getting drunk, I actually texted my ex to get back together, but I sent it by mistake to the rich heiress who secretly likes me. And I thought I was about to make a huge fool of myself. But she replied in seconds saying she'd be my girlfriend and even volunteered to help me teach that cheating pair a lesson. And right now, she's holding her civil service admission letter and proposing to me while I still have her husband's terminal illness diagnosis sitting in my phone. My girlfriend of 6 years went and had a flash wedding with her childhood sweetheart while I was studying overseas. When I came back, she showed up at my door claiming she had her reasons. Later, her husband waved a cancer diagnosis in my face and said, "So what if you were her first love? I've got cancer, and I'm not getting treatment. The living can't beat the dead. This time I'll win." Like, seriously, who's fighting over his second-hand wife? I've got a cute little princess chasing after me. Why would I pass on her? The day I came back, my ex, Jessica Miller, somehow heard the news and blocked me at the airport. I hadn't planned to get in her car, but she pulled up right in front of the taxi line so nobody else could get to me, horns blaring everywhere. I hate noisy scenes like that, so I got in with a frown. I treated her like a driver and rattled off my address as soon as I sat down. I hadn't even finished before Jessica cut in. I know. I gave a mocking little laugh and shut up. Of course, she knew back in college she couldn't stand campus food, so I'd bring her home and cook for her. When we were crazy in love, she was happy to make the trip. Later, it was just me going back and forth, cooking and delivering it to her. I stayed quiet, and the car fell into this awkward silence. I rolled the window down, lit a cigarette, feeling irritable. 2 years ago, seeing Jessica again, I probably would have been all worked up, demanding to know why she dumped me. We'd agreed she'd wait for me to come back. Why did she suddenly break up and even rush into marriage? The night before, we'd still been on video call dreaming about the future. But 2 years is plenty of time to think it through. When it's over, it's over. The facts are right there. There's no point asking. Jessica looked like she was focused on driving, but she kept sneaking glances at me from the corner of her eye. She was speeding, and most of my cigarette just blew away in the wind. You didn't used to smoke. Key words. Didn't used to. I snorted. I used to be the straight A, straight-laced kid. That was probably why Jessica liked me in the first place. But 2 years abroad, school pressure on top of a breakup, anything that could take the edge off, I tried. Luckily, I never crossed the real lines, and I still made it through. Jessica was quiet for a second, then said, "Luke, you've changed a lot." I sniffed. The car reeked of men's cologne. "Jessica, you don't get to call me Luke anymore." Jessica's brows sank, but she didn't argue. Her hands just tightened a little on the wheel. We went quiet again. The airport was only about 40 minutes from my place. On the way, she opened her mouth a few times to say something. I ignored her every time. No matter how much I talked myself down, I still hold a grudge. We'd been together 6 years. Right when we were about to make it to the finish line, she went and married someone else in a flash. I don't regret my youth, but I never pictured it ending that disgustingly. Jessica and I met sophomore year. Campus romances always start in cliche ways. She came to the med school to see a friend and fell for me at first sight. She was already the famous beauty from the liberal arts college, next door pretty rich family, and aside from being a bit proud, she was perfect. And that little bit of pride, when she was with me, just melted into softness. The only reason I could give myself to turn her down back then was that we weren't from the same world. But when love first hits, especially when Jessica at that time poured all her sincerity and passion into me, I'd cough twice in the morning when we met. And that afternoon she'd show up with rock, sugar, pear soup she'd made herself. For a girl born with a silver spoon, who never had to lift a finger, that kind of thoughtfulness looked incredibly precious. Later, on the day we made it official, I wanted to give her the full sense of ceremony, so I lit hundreds of fireworks on the school track. The exploding lights lit up half the campus night. I looked at her profile glowing in the firelight and confessed softly. Back then, it never crossed my mind that our love would fizzle out like fireworks too. Here's fine. The memories snapped off. The car stopped at the gate of my complex. When I got out, Jessica ran after me and hugged me from behind. Luke, don't be so heartless. At least we can still be friends. Friends? Be friends with a married ex? I, Luke, may not be some saint, but I'm not that shameless. Not to mention, I've got beef with Jessica's husband. Jessica, don't forget you're married. Whatever you were dying to tell me on the way, I'm over it. 2 years ago, you owed me an explanation. Now I don't need it. We will never be friends. Goodbye. I walked toward home without looking back. I genuinely hoped that would be the last time we saw each other. As for Jessica's husband, he's just some spoiled rich kid. Jessica's seamless transition had a lot to do with his relentless pestering. A guy like that, even after getting married, she still wouldn't really take him seriously. Otherwise, we wouldn't be standing here like this today. I don't even have to lift a finger to get back at him. Second semester of sophomore year, after Jessica and I got together, she suggested I meet her friends. Jason was the only guy in that group, her girlfriend's older brother. If you think about it, Jessica and Jason Smith practically grew up together. The moment I saw Jason, I knew he liked Jessica. He didn't even bother to hide the way he was provoking me. Jessica can't have cold drinks lately. I just started dating Jessica. How would I know something that specific? I clenched my teeth and waited for Jessica to shut him down. She only cooed. You always look out for me, Jason. And her friends clearly knew Jason was into her. Compared to me, of course they preferred Jason. One of them even joked, Jessica, you went and grabbed yourself a rags to riches guy without saying a word. Princess and the poor boy. Careful or he'll dump you the second he makes it big. Jason chimed in too. Exactly. I heard med students mess with all kinds of meds and cadavers all day. Jessica, you better watch it. Jessica didn't say a word. She just kept pouring drinks for everyone. I escaped to the bathroom to save face. Truth is, I'd never spent a penny of Jessica's money. I even took part-time jobs to buy her holiday gifts so they wouldn't look too cheap and make her look bad. That sweet, considerate side of hers only flashed by when she was chasing me. After that, it was always me coaxing her. She never cherished any of it. Later, to make sure my status matched hers, she even cried and made a scene to force me to go abroad. Maybe because I saw her again in the daytime. That night I dreamed about the moment she dumped me 2 years ago. It was just an ordinary morning. I saw a weird-shaped cloud in the sky, snapped a picture, all excited to send it to Jessica, but she never replied the whole day. Just when I was about to call and ask what was up, she sent a message. Let's break up. Just 5 words, not a single line of explanation. But I knew she meant it. We'd promised never to joke about something like that. My hands shook uncontrollably, panic rising in my chest, and I went crazy calling and texting Jessica. But it was like she vanished off the face of the earth. Not a word from her. I even foolishly imagined maybe she had some terminal illness and didn't want to make me sad, so she broke up suddenly. But every excuse I made for her fell apart the second I saw Jason's wedding photos on his feed. In the pictures, Jessica was in a pure white wedding gown, smiling radiantly as she held Jason's arm. Right in the middle of the 9-photo grid was a shot of them kissing sweetly. My alarm clock sounded distant, like it came from another world. The suffocating feeling from the dream slowly faded. I picked up my phone and saw a message from an unfamiliar number. It's Jason. I know you're back. Let's meet. I'll tell you the truth about what happened 2 years ago. I ignored it and blocked the number. He and Jessica were both just dust from the past. The truth didn't matter to me anymore. After a few days of rest, I reported to the city hospital. Saving lives had always been my dream since childhood. Back in that dark time, that dream was what pulled me out of my own abyss. That day, I had just finished seeing a patient and was about to take my lunch break. Someone knocked on the door. I thought it was a coworker coming to grab lunch, so I took off my white coat and went to open it. You? Standing outside was Jason, looking pale and unhealthy. When I opened the door, he drawled, "Luke, we need to talk." In the cafe downstairs, before I could even speak, Jason ordered 2 iced Americanos. I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. That was always my order. He seemed to know me pretty well. That's when I noticed his outfit looked familiar, like how I used to dress back in college. I crossed my arms, already losing patience with this act. Say it. What do you want? Luke, You know, Jessica and I grew up together, Jason began, launching into a story about how he'd secretly loved Jessica since they were kids. He spoke like she was some kind of goddess, but the way he described it was downright sleazy. I even hired stand-ins, but when I saw you two together, that's when I knew I really loved Jessica. From Jason's point of view, it must have been that cliche story childhood sweetheart loses to the newcomer, newcomer goes abroad. Sweetheart finally gets the girl, then the newcomer suddenly comes back to ruin it all. But come on, man, you've already got her! What are you doing dragging me into this again? I bowed out of this drama 2 years ago, but Jason just had to come knocking to disgust me all over again. He kept talking, but I didn't want to hear it. I lifted a hand to stop him, pulled out my phone, and played a song. The coffin lies deep in the valley. No secret lasts forever. All who reach for the world end in tragedy. Go on, I said. Jason's face darkened. What the hell is that supposed to mean, Luke? I laughed softly and paused the music. Nothing much. Just thought, from your perspective, the story's so tragic it deserved a soundtrack. Helps you express those deep feelings. You! Jason's anger flared. But then he seemed to think of something and calmed himself. He smirked. Luke, you think I don't know? Jessica was the one who picked you up at the airport, right? How'd it feel, seeing the girl you still dream about married to someone else? I smiled back. And how'd it feel, knowing your wife went to pick up her ex-boyfriend at the airport and you had to just swallow it? Jason's face twisted instantly. I let out a slow breath. Guess that settled an old score. Back in junior year, during finals, Jessica hurt her foot while dancing. I was buried in exams and couldn't be there. She said a friend would take care of her, but when I went over after my last test, it was Jason who opened the door. My face went dark, especially when I saw Jason holding Jessica's soaked underwear, water dripping from his hands. I completely lost it. I punched him without thinking. He didn't hit back, just smirked smugly. Jessica heard the noise and came out, slapped me across the face without asking a thing. He's like a brother to me. He was just helping me wash my underwear. Don't be so disgusting, she snapped, then impatiently explained why Jason was there. I called everyone, and he was the only one who actually showed up. It's your fault anyway. You had to have exams right now of all times. I'd had enough and argued with Jessica on the spot. Jason didn't say a word to defend himself. He even tried to play the peacemaker, saying I was being petty. Later, Jessica's friends all found out and started defending Jason, saying I was a lousy boyfriend, jealous, unreasonable, narrow-minded. Even Jessica got some backlash from it. But hell, I'd already hired a nurse to take care of her. She was the one who said she couldn't handle strangers. Maybe my words set Jason off, because he suddenly went for the jugular. What are you so proud of, Luke? You think that pear soup was made by her? You think those birthday presents were picked by her? You think when she told you she was going to bed, she really was? You think her first time was with you? I froze. I really hadn't seen that coming. I'd always been conservative. Even when Jessica hinted at it, I said we'd wait until marriage. I thought I was showing respect. Turns out Jessica and Jason just thought I was a fool. All those sweet gestures I'd treasured were planned by another man. My stomach turned. I felt like I was going to throw up. Still, I forced myself to sneer. So being a lapdog for someone else's girlfriend is something you're proud of? Jason lost it and threw his iced Americano at me. I instinctively raised an arm to block, but some of it still splashed on my face. I stood up, grabbed my own coffee, and tossed it right back at him. He hadn't expected that the coffee hit him full on, leaving him soaked and pathetic. He charged at me, grabbed my collar, ready to swing. I was already thinking about what car to hit him with when Jessica showed up. She froze, seeing Jason's drenched face, but quickly grabbed his arm and snapped. You told me you were coming for a checkup! What the hell is this? Apologize to Luke! Jason's face went from pale to dark red as he started arguing with Jessica. I didn't say a word, just turned and walked out. I'm not some NPC waiting around while they perform their tragic lovers' drama. The two of them were equally disgusting. All I felt was nausea. No anger, no pain, nothing left. Luke, Jessica called after me, trying to chase me down, but I quickened my pace. When I got back to the hospital, I learned Jason hadn't just come to pick a fight, he was there for a biopsy. His last exam hadn't looked good. There was a lesion on his liver. No wonder he'd been so on edge. But he wasn't my patient, and he wasn't my friend. Whether he was sick or not had nothing to do with me. That night at dinner, my parents brought up the idea of setting me up on a blind date. No pressure for results, just make some friends. Our Luke's a good guy, smart, charming. Girls will always like you. They knew about me and Jessica. The way they said it, careful, tentative, made my chest tighten. Maybe what they feared more than me staying single was me never getting over her. I'd always been the strong type. Even if I said I'd moved on, they wouldn't believe it, so I agreed. That weekend, I tidied up and went to the restaurant we'd agreed on. I'm the punctual type, so I arrived about 30 minutes early. I just ordered a coffee and was zoning out when a soft, melodic voice beside me said, "It's you!" I turned to see a pretty girl in casual clothes looking at me with surprise and delight. I hesitated. "Miss, do we know each other?" She smiled. 2 years ago, on a street in M Country, you saved me. Remember? I studied her face. Her features were so delicate she looked like a real-life Barbie doll. With looks like that, if I'd seen her before, there's no way I'd forget. Seeing me struggle to remember, she added helpfully, my face was covered in blood at the time. You probably couldn't see what I looked like. When she said that, it clicked. 2 years ago, right after the breakup, I'd been spiraling, constantly overanalyzing everything. To dull the pain, I'd go on long walks whenever I could. One day I happened to run into a stabbing incident on the street. I wasn't hurt, but a girl nearby was stabbed trying to help someone else. Everyone around us panicked and ran, but I just stood there. I'd been in such a dark place that I almost welcomed the danger. So, acting on some unspeakable impulse, I ran toward her, despite the risk that the attacker might come back, and started giving her first aid. Luckily, the guy didn't return, and the girl held on until the ambulance arrived. That was the moment I finally started waking up from my haze. So it turned out I wasn't as pathetic as I thought. Someone who could be abandoned without a word after years together. These hands of mine could still save lives. The girl, seeing I didn't answer, grew anxious. Do you remember now? Do you? When they put me in the ambulance, I was already unconscious. When I woke up, you were gone. I never thought I'd meet you again after 2 years. My name's Jennifer Delaney. Jennifer added my contact info and said she wanted to thank me. She told me that even though I was a doctor now, back then I had no obligation to risk my life to save her. And what she wanted to thank wasn't my profession, but me as a person. When Jennifer spoke, her eyes sparkled like stars, and for some reason I thought of a kitten I once had. Whenever I rattled the snack bag, it would look up at me with those same bright, expectant eyes, utterly adorable. A month later, on my birthday, my buddies gathered at my place to celebrate, and Jennifer was there too. Watching her rinse fruit in the kitchen, one of my friends nudged me and smirked. Not bad, Luke. Just got back and already landed a pretty girl. I was about to deny it when Jennifer came over with a plate of strawberries. She held one up to my mouth and said, Luke, try this one, it's really sweet. I reached out to take it, but she dodged and said, You haven't washed your hands. Just eat it like this. My friends burst into whistles and laughter. My face flushed, but I refused to back down and leaned in to bite the strawberry. Her soft, fair fingertips brushed against my lips, and a sudden heat rose in my chest. Jennifer, startled, drew her hand back like she'd been shocked. Just then, the doorbell rang. I snapped out of that daze and took the chance to excuse myself. But when I opened the door, my smile vanished. Jessica stood there. What are you doing here? I asked flatly. Jessica looked straight at me. I remembered it's your birthday. I brought your favorite cake, and she pulled out a red velvet box with a ring inside. It was the same one we'd seen while shopping the day before I went abroad. She'd loved the design and the meaning behind it, so I'd swiped my card right then and bought it. Later, during our fight, when she forced me to leave the country, she'd thrown it away. If I hadn't heard what Jason said that day, maybe I'd have felt something. But now, All I felt was disgust. I frowned and told her to leave. Jessica pressed a hand to the door. Luke, there's been a misunderstanding. Jason and I were never really married. We were just pretending. Just then, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, frowned, and declined the call. A few seconds later, it rang again. She looked at me, then picked up. Jason's voice came through loud and clear, asking when she'd be home. He had something to tell her. Jessica brushed him off, saying she was busy. At that moment, one of my friends called from inside, asking me to cut the cake. Jason must have heard that through the phone, because he hung up abruptly. Jessica didn't seem to care, which somehow made me even more disgusted. Jessica, I said, you're married. Maybe try acting like it. You broke up with me without a word 2 years ago, and now you show up clinging to your ex? It's pathetic. I don't want to be cruel, but at least don't make me regret ever loving you. Jessica's face turned pale, but she still said softly, I know I don't have the right. I just wanted to see you. Just then, Jennifer came looking for me since I hadn't gone back. Luke, who is it? She asked, leaning half her body against my back, the pose looking almost intimate. Who is she? Jessica's voice went shrill. Before I could answer, Jennifer glanced at the ring in Jessica's hand and said sweetly, I'm Luke's girlfriend. And who are you, ma'am? That ring design looks ancient. Why would you give someone a ring that's years out of date? So tacky. Jennifer, bold with her youth, had called Jessica ma'am right to her face. For someone as proud as Jessica, it was like being slapped in public. She shot me a long, deep look, then threw the cake down and stormed off. I closed the door and turned to Jennifer. When did you become my girlfriend again? Jennifer blanked, all innocence. I just wanted to help you out. She was clinging to you. I thought I'd step in. You're not mad at me, are you? Of course not. Around that time, Jason's test results came back cancer. After I'd blocked him everywhere, he came to the hospital and registered under my name. I followed protocol, asked routine questions, and he pulled out a diagnosis report. I'm terminal, he said. I've already signed the divorce papers. Luke, I want to set you two free. I glanced at the report, mid-stage liver cancer. If caught early, it could still be treated with surgical resection. Not exactly a death sentence. The doctor must have told him that already. Yet there he was, acting like his illness was some tragic bargaining chip. Honestly, med school can't save a man with a love-addled brain. Mr. Smith, you must have booked the wrong department. I said dryly. This isn't neurology, Jason flushed, swallowing his temper to keep playing his part. Luke, I was wrong last time. I shouldn't have thrown coffee at you. I just wanted to tell you the truth. It's been 2 years I still haven't won Jessica over. And now that I'm dying, it's time for me to bow out. Dude, this is a hospital, not a soap opera set. You're really going for the melodrama, huh? I cut him off mid-speech. Let me guess, your truth is that Jessica's grandma was sick and you two had to fake a marriage? Back when we broke up, I'd driven myself crazy trying to figure out why Jessica dumped me out of nowhere. But I'd moved on. From an outsider's view, it was obvious. Less than a year after their wedding, Jessica's grandmother passed away. That old woman had never liked me. She thought I was too ordinary for their high and mighty family. Back then, I'd believed that if I worked hard enough, I could make up for that gap. So I studied like my life depended on it, just to be worthy of Jessica. Who could have guessed fate would twist like that? Maybe her grandmother had forced her to break up and marry Jason before she died. Thinking about it, it wasn't impossible. Jason widened his eyes. Luke, you're sharp. But that's not all, he said. The key is Jessica thinks we slept together. He gave a bitter laugh. But I lied to her. Nothing happened between us. We've been pretending this whole time. Jason looked up at me, a flicker of smugness flashing through his eyes. Luke, Jessica's yours now. This time, I'm the one leaving. I'll win. His mouth curled. Though who knows how long a man's white moonlight stays pure before she turns to dust. She's yours. I stared at him, then started to laugh. Jason, don't think I don't see what you're doing. White moonlight, my ass. You should really see a neurologist might cure all this self-pity. Whether you slept with her or not, you can't stop talking about it. You think she's the only woman in the world I'd fight over? I sneered. Save your disgusting performance. I, Luke, studied abroad for years. Came back as one of the best surgeons in this hospital. What makes you think I'd sign up to raise another man's leftovers? Besides, ever since my birthday, Jennifer had been openly pursuing me. Why the hell would I throw that away for a married woman who betrayed me? Jason showing up with his cancer diagnosis was just an excuse to drag me down with him. No doubt he hadn't told Jessica about it. When it eventually came out, if Jessica had even a shred of affection for him, she'd definitely take it out on me. Then I'd stop being the sainted first love in her mind. But all his little schemes relied on one thing: that I still wanted Jessica back. Otherwise, he was just a clown performing for no one. Only someone born spoiled, never knowing hardship, would twist himself up this way over a woman who'd already proven unfaithful. I thought my entanglement with those two would finally end there. But not long after, Jessica showed up, waving her divorce certificate like a trophy. "Luke," she said excitedly, "it was all a misunderstanding. Jason and I are over now. I can finally explain everything." And you and Jennifer aren't together yet, right?
I looked away from my chat with Jennifer and said impatiently,
I haven't accepted her yet, true. But that doesn't mean I'll ever accept a divorced woman. Jessica, I'm not putting that broken mirror back together. Is it really that hard to accept? She said, stepping forward like she wanted to throw herself into my arms. I stepped back. Listen to me, Luke. Nothing ever happened between me and Jason. I only married him because my grandmother was dying. I had no choice. And Jason lied to us. I raised an eyebrow. Lied to us? Jessica took a breath, calming herself, her face lighting up with excitement. Yes! Do you remember the fight we had 3 months before we broke up? I got drunk at a bar, and my friends called Jason to come get me. The next morning, I woke up and saw myself lying next to Jason. I didn't know what happened. My grandmother was gravely ill at the time, and forced Jason to take responsibility. But now I've divorced him. Jason said it was all his plan, that nothing actually happened between us. So, Luke, I never betrayed you. Can we start over? So that was Jason's final move, pretend to let go. Then slowly reveal the truth, making Jessica's guilt for him peak at the last possible moment. But why is it always me betrayed? Used as their pawn who has to pay for it. Just because I was the so-called first love, I have to play along with their script? I stared at Jessica for a long moment, watching her face falter and her eyes flicker with guilt. Then I smiled faintly. Jessica, who's the fool here? Jason has cancer. You didn't know that? And I've seen your medical report, remember? You did your checkup at this hospital last year. The words termination of pregnancy were right there in black and white. If it had been Jason's child, he'd never have let her get rid of it. Besides, Jessica was never one for boundaries. As soon as I said it, all the color drained from her face. She muttered impossible, then suddenly pulled out her phone and frantically dialed. The number you have dialed is powered off. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Do you want to watch Jason die? You're still bitter about him stealing your scholarship, aren't you? Jessica shouted hysterically. In some ways, Jason really did understand her better than I did. There it was. The misdirected blame. I replied coolly. Done pretending? Sometimes I really wonder what I ever saw in you. I'm not Jason's doctor. I'm not your friend. And I feel nothing but disgust toward you both. I had no obligation to tell you anything. Jessica kept crying that she'd misjudged me as she ran out the door. Watching her back disappear, she suddenly seemed like a stranger. It's strange how two people can spend years together and still never truly see each other. When Jennifer came over, I was sitting on a bench, lost in thought. Luke, what's wrong? She asked softly, handing me a cup of juice while studying my face. I'm fine, I said, automatically. The next second, I was pulled into her warm, gentle embrace. It's okay if you don't want to talk, she murmured. Just rest here for a bit. I didn't respond or move, and so I didn't see the shadow that darkened Jennifer's usually bright eyes. The next time I saw Jessica was half a month later. She came begging me to save Jason. I was speechless. Sure, I was one of the hospital's top surgeons, but what made her think I was that magnanimous? Besides, Jason wasn't even my patient. Jason refuses treatment. His condition's worsening because of his mood swings. Luke, please, for old time's sake, if he won't treat himself, go beg him. I feel nothing but disgust for you both. Jessica, don't forget you and he cheated on me together. Jessica's lips trembled, but no words came out. People are strange sometimes. They lie to themselves just to escape reality. If I hadn't seen both of their medical reports, maybe I could have understood why she broke up with me back then. Because compared to admitting she'd cheated, letting me think she was cruel and unfeeling probably seemed cleaner to her. That way, I could hate her but still remember her fondly. But instead, she chose to deceive herself and come put on another show in front of me. Not long after Jessica left, I got a text. The living can't beat the dead. This time, I'll be the one who wins. I didn't need to guess who sent it. He really wasn't tired of this, was he? Maybe he'd read one too many tragic romance novels. What Jason didn't seem to grasp was that without treatment, the cancer would soon spread. His body would waste away. The pain wouldn't stop at his stomach. For a man who'd gone through 9 years of compulsory education, he was throwing his life away over Jessica. I was done watching their circus. So when the hospital announced an exchange program in another province, I jumped at the chance. A year of study and training away sounded perfect. I needed distance from people whose brains were clearly broken. When I got back, I heard gossip from the nurses. Jessica's family company had somehow angered a major industry player and was getting crushed, barely staying afloat. Jessica was drowning in work and still had to care for Jason. It was tearing her apart. Knowing they were miserable actually brought me peace. But sometimes thoughts have power. The night Jennifer and I went out to dinner, we ran into Jessica. She looked exhausted, probably from all the pressure. She froze when she saw me, then turned to Jennifer. I did what you asked. Can you stop now? Jennifer smiled sweetly. Of course. I'm a woman of my word. I stopped a month ago. But when a tower's already collapsing, even the smallest breeze can bring it down. Jessica bit her lip and left, seething. I raised an eyebrow at Jennifer, and she pouted playfully.
I just asked my family to give them a little trouble. They wouldn't stop bothering you.
I know Luke can handle things on his own. I just couldn't stand seeing them mess with you. So Jennifer turned out to be the second daughter of the very corporation dominating their industry. Another heiress. After what happened with Jessica, I wanted nothing to do with the rich and powerful, and my attitude toward Jennifer grew distant. Jennifer seemed to realize why. She came to me looking pitiful. Luke, my family doesn't do arranged marriages or forced relationships. We're free to love whoever we want. I even have an older brother to inherit everything. I just get my annual dividends. Please don't ignore me. Then she pulled out an admission letter for the city's civil service exam. You've been busy with this all year? Jennifer nodded proudly. Yep, I passed it myself. Look, you're a doctor, I'm a civil servant, we're a perfect match. Fair enough. The next I heard of Jason was when he caused a scene at the hospital, breaking down completely. His cancer had spread fast. He was crying and begging the doctors to save him. He didn't want to die. He'd been the one refusing treatment before. And now he was begging for a miracle. But doctors aren't gods. And cancer isn't swayed by grand gestures of love. What could have been solved with surgery had now progressed to chemotherapy. Jason had no choice left. And his manipulative little act had already been seen through by Jessica. Even the most dutiful children grow tired of caring for the chronically ill. What chance did a marriage built on lies and calculation have? I heard Jessica was torn between frustration and fear of loss. Her feelings toward Jason swinging wildly. They tortured each other until even their thin love burned out. But all that had nothing to do with me anymore. By then, Jennifer was openly living at my place. Her sweet words had my parents completely charmed. I glanced at the bright moon outside and pulled her into my arms. She nuzzled against my neck like a kitten. Luke, you're my moon, she whispered. I smiled and kissed her forehead gently. A year later, I proposed to Jennifer. She said yes with a radiant smile. At the wedding, I thought I glimpsed a familiar figure in the crowd, but I didn't bother to look twice. My eyes were full of my bride. Later, during the banquet, a classmate gossiped that Jason had gone abroad for treatment half a year ago. The therapy might prolong his life for a few years, but there was no cure. Jessica, tired of caring for him, had divorced him. Afterward, she spent her days drifting through clubs and bars, caught some nasty disease, and was now despised by her own family. The classmate watched me closely, waiting for a reaction. I only smiled faintly. From across the room, Jennifer was waving me over for photos. I set down my glass and answered her call. Whatever happened to them, it was none of my business. My happiness was already right here in my hands.